Thank you. And hello and welcome to Cashier Training. This is an annual requirement for those that are standing at the end of a serving line to count reimbursable meals. These record keepers must have training in civil rights. They need to know what a reimbursable meal is and if it's being served in a serve-only meal service or what it looks like in an offer versus serve meal service. We will do some practice trays with offer versus serve and then end our time discussing a couple other general program issues that cashiers must be aware of. This training is a good full hour, so please add your questions to the chat box and we will answer as many as we can at the end of our session today. So we are going to dive right into the civil rights training, and this first section will have to cover 9 different topics that are required in a civil rights training. It's based on the 2-page handout that you can find in the front of your lunch production record book. If somebody doesn't have the opportunity to watch this recording, they certainly can just read through that 2-page handout and call it good for civil rights training each year. Just as everyone is responsible for food safety, all staff should also know the details about civil rights compliance as it relates to school meal programs. The 9 topics that we are required to teach in a civil rights training are listed here, and we will cover each one of them in a little more detail, but sticking to that 2-page civil rights training. I did rearrange the topics a little bit. So the one that was sent on your email will follow this rearranged training course, but you can follow it pretty easily in the lunch production book as well. So our first topic is going to be an effective notification system. You want all households to know about and participate in your school meal programs. Communication with households is key to making programs accessible to all. I think the second key is making sure that your staff also knows the same messages. Did you know that there is a requirement for each school to annually publish a notification about the school meal program and how to access free or reduced price meal benefits? You may not, because in North Dakota, this is a service provided by your state agency. Hopefully you saw the public notification in your local newspaper. If you did not, though, there's no harm in publishing the notification again yourself. It's marketing your program. Notification must include the non-discrimination statement. And I think most of you are aware that our non-discrimination statement has been updated for the 2022 school year. So make sure that you have updated the statement on your website, any letters that are being sent out to your households, and other marketing material that for the school meal programs. You will be getting a new and Justice for All poster as soon as we get it. We have not got them yet, so be patient. Please continue to use the old poster for now. Now, this is the new non-discrimination statement for school meal programs. It's pretty specific. You need to be using the right one. There's several out there that are required for schools to have on their website, including the title program and just for the school district. You will see in the first paragraph of the updated non-discrimination statement, the list of all the protected classes of people. When you proudly display the posters and use the non-discrimination statement, you are letting all families know that we serve all students, no matter their race, color, national origin, sex, disability, or age. The second paragraph of our non-discrimination statement will help people obtain program information in alternative formats. And the final or the third paragraph to the end of our statement is the complaint procedure to follow if you do not remember your school's complaint procedure. And finally, I want to draw your attention to the very bottom of this slide, the one line that says, "This institution is an equal opportunity provider." This may be used on program material that doesn't have a lot of extra space, such as a poster or a brochure. Letters and your website must include the entire statement, even if it adds an extra page to a letter. There shouldn't be a problem with your website on space. So it must be presented in its entirety and without changing any wording in the statement. We often see different ones used, as I said, in the title programs and for your school district. And same with this last bottom statement. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. Every once in a while, we'll come across a school that's using USDA is an equal opportunity employer, and that's not the right one for our school meal program. So make sure that you are using these in the right places with the right verbiage. Now, this statement is translated into 20 other different languages for you. It's in Spanish on the And Justice for All posters, but if you need a different language, you can go to this website at fns.usda. Now, it's /and justice, all posters, guidance and translations. I didn't forget the and justice for. I didn't forget the for in this website. So you can find it at the fns.usda.gov/cr/and justice, all posters, guidance and translations. And that leads me into the other key area for communication of your program. Meaningful access to information and services provided regarding school meal programs must be for all protected classes, and this includes your limited English proficient households. These are the individuals who don't have English as a primary language, and they may have a limited ability to read, speak, write, or even understand English. Uh, the the school district must have a plan in how to deal with these households. Even if the school district doesn't have an LEP household right now, there must be a plan there to be able to help a household if they move in and are not able to understand English. And those translation services must be provided for free. Now, when we go out to schools, we see some really innovative plans for dealing with LEP. Many use their language services that they have in school, but others have found translation apps on their phone, and there are some community organizations that provide those services. So there are lots of translation services, so let us know if you need help in making that plan. Now let's turn to our complaint procedure. Civil rights tends to bring in some complaints. And so what happens if someone has a complaint that their civil rights have been violated? What are your steps to deal with this? Now, remember, this is a complaint about a discrimination event that happened to somebody. They feel that they've been discriminated because of their race or their color. It's not that the toast is too brown or that the milk is too warm. This has to do with civil rights. So make sure that all your staff know how to deal with a complaint if it's communicated to them. And if possible, try to resolve the complaint informally without following all these procedures. The 3 steps that you need to know about in taking a complaint is to first listen, then to document, and finally report it. In the listening phase, you will need to provide the person that feels they've been discriminated against with the non-discrimination statement. If the complaint is sent in anonymously, you still need to treat it the same as you do want to resolve that complaint. So listen to what they're saying. If you're on the phone and the person won't give you their name and address, still listen to what they're saying. Then document the complaint, know where the complaint form is located. And our next slide, I'm going to show you that. And then write down all the details that you are hearing as the person is speaking to you. Your final step in this process is reporting the complaint. Do you know who your school's civil rights complaint officer is? So that would be something that you would want to find out after this training if you don't. Usually it's your superintendent or the food service director, or maybe somebody else, another administrator. The complaint needs to be logged at the district level. There should be a permanent file located in someone's file cabinet that says civil rights complaints. When we come out, we will be looking for that document, and we hope that it's blank, that you haven't had to log any of those complaints. But if you have, you need to have that in a permanent file. And then you need to forward it on to our office so that we can forward it on to the regional office, and they will again forward it on to USDA. And that's where the investigation will begin. So these are a whole lot of steps, and if you can, try to resolve the complaint informally. Now, I said I was going to show you where to find that fun little complaint form, and it is on our newly updated non-discrimination statement. They've got in blue this website where you can click. If this is on your website, you could click this and get right to that AD 3027 USDA program discrimination complaint form. Now, if you don't have the form available, a piece of paper will work just fine to document the details, the who, what, where, and when of the event that happened. But this will help you collate that information. And so we clicked on that link, and here is the fun little form. This is actually a 6-page form. The 2 first pages are the instructions in how to complete it. And then you've got the third page starts with the who is making the complaint and what are their details. Question 1 in the complaint, then the actual event, what happened is who violated the civil rights. The 4th page then is full of more questions on the who, what, where, and when of the event. And then that 5th page begins with a question that says, how do you want this problem resolved? And I do love that update that you're starting to brainstorm some solutions on resolving this problem. Okay, that's the form, and you could download it and have copies available in a file cabinet, but hopefully you don't need it. And since you're brainstorming those solutions, we wanted to talk a little bit about conflict resolution. This is at the very end of your 2-page sheet in the lunch production book, but I've brought it up to the complaint section because it makes sense that you're trying to figure out how to resolve this problem. And so there's some good steps that are noted on our handout for conflict resolution. You want to try to resolve it informally, and these steps should help you resolve the problem. So the 3 steps in conflict resolution are: first, assess the nature of the problem. And I thought this was a good idea to talk in a neutral, non-threatening area. If you've got somebody that is having a problem, it may be escalating a little bit too much, and moving to a counselor's office or another administrative area may just de-escalate the event a little bit, and help you clarify the issue. And that's what you're going to do, is listen first and clarify that you are understanding the issue. You need to manage your emotions. You can't manage the complaint emotions, but if moving to another area will de-escalate, that would help. But there's going to be some anger and maybe fear involved in this conflict. You are trying to find a win-win solution as partners, not as opponents. So assessing the nature of the problem, that's what you're working for. Step number 2 then is to take the appropriate steps to solve the problem. And this is where you're attacking the problem, not the person. Remember that you have clarified the problem and you're looking to solve it with that person. You're looking to do it creatively. John Adams said, every problem is an opportunity in disguise. So use this complaint to make your program better by brainstorming those creative options. Then you want to settle on a way to move forward. And your third step then is to follow up. If you got that complaint anonymously, it's tough to follow up with that person, but you can follow up with anybody that's involved with the problem and make sure that the solution is working. And then move on to the next fire. And those fires that we see quite often in the school kitchen is surrounding the special diets, and they are tough. I guess that's all I can say. Parents have their way of feeding their child, and they want the school to continue their home routine in the school. So all students should be served safe food, and you should take food allergies seriously. But many of the food allergies can be taken care of just with a simple substitution. If a student is allergic to pineapple, you can serve them peaches instead. And that substitution keeps the meal reimbursable. You haven't changed the meal pattern at all. For those food allergies that do change the meal pattern, such as the ones that are intolerant of the grain component, you need to have a medical statement signed by a medical provider uh, that says what foods to omit and what foods to substitute. And this is like a prescription for the student with their food. Then let's turn to the allergies to the sugar in milk, or that lactose, and that's a very common allergy or intolerance in children, and sometimes they grow out of it. Parents can request lactose-free milk for their child without this medical statement. You do need to have a request to try and track these allergies, and so there is lactose-free request form in your lunch production book, right along with this medical statement that needs to be signed by the doctors. Uh, Requesting a lactose-free milk still keeps you in that meal pattern. You haven't substituted milk with something else. Now, if the parents are asking for juice or water to be substituted, that's when they do need to have that medical doctor signing a statement that the child needs juice or milk, which would take the meal out of a reimbursable meal since you've altered the meal pattern. The school district has total control on meeting menu and making the menu and meeting meal requirements. Federal government just has outlined the meal pattern, and the school district has many, many, many options to menu within those meal pattern requirements. So if there are other groups in the community that are making requests, the school district has the option to develop policies for any other meal substitutions that are being asked for. Now, Amy did a great kitchen counter conversation last November on food allergies. So if you want more information on the special diets, please take a time to watch the November kitchen counter conversation, and that's located in our updates tab on the website. Our next topic in civil rights is the compliance review techniques, and I think this is fun. Your handout talks about the administrative review, but I think it starts with your site monitoring, your self-monitoring of the requirements of the programs. There is a site monitoring worksheet in your lunch production book, fairly close to the civil rights. Uh, it is required for any district that has 2 or more school sites. So you need to fill this out and complete it by February 1st each year. It needs to be done for lunch and then breakfast if you offer it. There's also one in the snack production book, and it's a little different, and there's 2 copies in there because the first one needs to be done within the first 4 weeks of operation of the snack program, and then the second one needs to be completed before the snack program is done for the year. Now, I said that this is required for school districts with 2 or more schools. It's optional for the school districts with just a single site, but you're highly encouraged. It doesn't take too much time to go through these questions, and it really makes sure that you're following all of the requirements for the program. The second page of this worksheet has the civil rights in the middle section there. It's got 3 questions about civil rights, and let's talk about the resolution of non-compliance. Anytime that you are checking no on this worksheet, you need to have a corrective action, and that's the resolution of non-compliance. And so in civil rights, you're asked, is the "And Justice for All" poster displayed? Are students being served meals without discrimination? And thirdly, are special diets being accommodated correctly? Let's just look at that "And Justice for All" poster. Maybe your facility management washed the cafeteria walls this summer and they didn't get that "And Justice for All" poster up again. And you've went out and you've checked, no, I don't see it. And so your corrective action would be to call our office, get a copy of the poster coming, and then follow up within 45 days to make sure that you got that poster and that it is hanging in your cafeteria or a prominent location. Pretty simple, and that's what we'll do on an administrative review as well. The next topic in our civil rights training is collection and use of data. And there's 2 issues with this. The first one is filling out the racial and ethnic data form. This form is not located in your lunch production book. We do have it on the website and we can send it to you if you need another copy. It needs to be filled out every year. And it really will show you the diversity of your school district when you see how many people identify as the race and ethnicity that they're checking on your applications. And that's one thing I wanted to point out, that the preferred method of collection is self-identification through the free and reduced application, but you can get this data from your school enrollment forms. It is no longer allowed for the school districts to identify race or ethnicity on the free and reduced price meal applications. So if those boxes on the back of the application are blank, just leave them blank. Do not fill them in. This form can be completed any time of the year, and it needs to be kept on file for 3 years. I think it's easiest to complete this form when you're getting ready to do verification. You've got to go through and count those applications anyway, so just keep track of the race and ethnicity from the back of your forms to fill out this particular form. Okay, and the other issue with the use of data is that schools have a lot of private information about families. You think about the income that's being listed on the free and reduced applications, and no one wants their private information divulged. If a household thinks that their information is not being protected in a school, you're going to have a hard time getting people to send in their application. So I just wanted to help you see that you really need to be keeping your free and reduced applications under lock and key, and any of that data that's on your computers needs to be password protected. The final issue in this civil rights training is customer service. I found this quote in a article entitled 21 Key Customer Service Skills. They say good customer service always starts with the human touch. This was the first skill of 21 identified, and I think it resonates with the school nutrition programs and protecting the participants' civil rights. You may be the first smile that a student encounters to begin their school day. You energize them to be the best student possible. Remember to allow all students to participate in the program and treat them all the same way. If a parent asks for information regarding a special diet issue, treat them respectfully and be helpful. Having a procedure already written will be proactive in handling those requests. If they approach you with a civil rights issue, follow your procedure now that you know it and you're comfortable with it. So that concludes the civil rights training for our cashiers today. We will move on to the next section of reimbursable meals and offer versus serve. So what's a reimbursable meal? You will be asking the government for money to cover the full or part of the cost of each meal you serve to a student. The government is more than willing to reimburse the school for those costs as long as the school agrees to follow the rules they have set out for a meal. These rules mean that you're following the meal pattern. Now you may be serving meals that cannot be claimed for reimbursement, and they have to be tracked in the production record, but not included in your meal count for the day. These meals might be a second meal. Now, remember the rule is only one meal per child per meal service. So just one breakfast for a child, one lunch for a child, one snack for a child. Okay. This also includes things like entree only meals that don't meet the meal pattern, or second meals. Of course, that wouldn't, or second milk, that wouldn't meet the meal pattern. The district should also have set policies on who pays for those second meals or food components, whether it's the child's meal count, the general fund, or some other non-federal funding source. The cashier really needs to know where that money's coming from. A meal taken by an adult will never be reimbursable. Adult meals should follow the same meal pattern as a student's. Larger portions and second helpings should be priced just like a student's. Now, when we talk about the meal pattern and reimbursable meal, the reimbursable meal will have offered each of the food groups and food items listed in the meal pattern. For lunch, that means that all 5 food groups have to be out on the lunch serving line. 5 food groups include meat and milk, grain, and fruit and a vegetable. For breakfast, there's only 3 food groups, but you must have 4 food items. The 3 food groups would be a grain, a fruit, and a milk. For the fruit, 1 cup is offered, and so many schools will split that 1 cup of fruit and offer a half a cup of juice and a half a cup of another fruit. And there you have 4 items. Now, there's so many different ways you can menu this, and again, we're going to let you come up with your own menu, but just remember, you need to have at least 4 food items from at least 3 food groups for breakfast. Snack is looking for 2 food groups. There's the 4 food groups that you can choose from, but every snack must have 2 items from 2 different food groups in it. Some schools for their kindergarten through 8th grade will use the serve only meal service, and that's you're serving all the food that's menued to every student. Everything's on the tray. For the 9th through 12th grade, you must use the offer versus serve method of meal service. And that means that the student has to take a required amount of items. For breakfast, we're looking for at least a half a cup of fruit or vegetable and at least 2 other items of the 4 items for breakfast. Lunch, we're looking for a half a cup of fruit again and at least 2 other full components or food groups. The snack is not available for offer versus serve. You have to have 2 things on your snack tray. The menuer may have offered 4 different things, but the student has to have 2 things for their snack. And let's quickly look at the meal pattern because the meal pattern for each of these meals have different portion sizes that must be made by the meal planner. At breakfast, we're looking for 8 ounces of milk, which is usually just a carton of milk. We're looking for 1 whole cup of fruit, and that's all across all grades. They have to have a fruit, or a vegetable can be substituted for the fruit, but it's got to be 1 cup. Grain must have at least 1 ounce for all grains, for all grades, and once the grain has been menued, then a protein can be added to the menu. And again, it has to have at least 4 items for this meal pattern. At lunch, we're also looking for your milk, and we need to have 2 different choices at least for the students to choose from. And this might be a chocolate skim and a white skim, any variety of milk, just as long as you have 2. The fruit is where we start to see a little break in the amount served to each of the grade groups. Kindergarten through 8th grade has to have a half a cup of fruit, and the 9th through 12th graders need 1 full cup of fruit to be offered. Vegetables is the one that I really want to highlight because we see this missed every once in a while, that the kindergarten through 8th grade need 3/4 of a cup of vegetable offered every day. The 9th graders need a whole cup of vegetable along with that whole cup of fruit that they're getting offered each day. Grain and protein for daily requirements are both 1 ounce for your kindergarten through 8th grade and 2 ounces for 9th through 12th grade. Now, there are weekly minimums that need to be made. There's vegetable subgroups that need to be made, but you as a cashier don't need to worry about those things. Your menu planner has to have that all calculated out when they are designing your menu. You as a cashier just need to know that these 5 food groups at lunch and 3 food groups at breakfast need to be out on the serving line in portions that can be made by these age groups. Okay, there's one other slide that I wanted to point out. Again, offer versus serve is required for 9th through 12th grade. Those kids are becoming adults and they're making lots of choices, lots of food choices, and we're hoping they're learning about healthy food choices. It also reduces food waste, and that's why we encourage you to use it for kindergarten through 8th grade as well. Totally optional for you, but it is available. And it can be used at both breakfast and lunch for all grades. It can't be used at the after-school snack program. The other thing that I need to point out is that you need some type of signage at the beginning of your service line that tells the kids how they can make a reimbursable meal if you're going to use offer versus serve. These two signs are available at Team Nutrition at the USDA website, Team Nutrition, and they tell the student for breakfast they need to have 3 items, and one of those items has to be a half a cup of fruit or vegetable. I always like to say that they need a half a cup of fruit or vegetable first, and then the 2 other items to go with that. But however you put it, you need some kind of reimbursable meal signage at the front of your line. And it might be a menu. We've sent out the laminated offer versus serve posters. If you are challenged with space, we can get that to you in a smaller version. Just give us a call. So now we're going to do some practice with some trays that we've seen out in the field. Um, some of them are out in the field, other ones I've found. Uh, anyway, the first 2 are breakfast. So be thinking about your breakfast meal pattern that you've got a grain, a fruit, and a milk, and that you need 4 different items menued. And then we're going to look at the tray. So in this menu for this breakfast, we've given them a choice of cereal. 1 cup will equal 1 ounce of grain equivalent. They have a choice of a trick cereal bar, and we found a product formulation statement that says this is also equal to 1 ounce grain. We don't see the banana here, but there's a bucket of bananas sitting out for the kids to choose from, and 4-ounce 100% juice cup. That would be half a cup, another half a cup of fruit. So we've got a whole cup of fruit there, and choice of milks for the students to choose from. On their tray, he's got a milk, the half a cup of juice, the Trick cereal bar, and it looks like Kix cereal in a 1 cup serving. Is this a reimbursable meal? And yes, it is. The menu offers our 4 items with 1 ounce of grain, at least a cup of fruit, and 8 ounces of milk with a choice. And the student has taken half a cup of fruit plus at least 2 other items menued at the breakfast. Our next breakfast is an omelet with cheese, a half a cup of melon cubes, and another half a cup of juice. So we've got that cup of fruit, and then the carton of milk that we can choose either skim white or skim 1%. The student's tray contains the cheese omelet, the melon cubes, and the milk. Is this a reimbursable meal? And we are going to say, no, it is not a reimbursable meal. The menu, what's set out for the menu, does offer 4 items with 1 cup of fruit and 8 ounces of milk, but there is no grain that's out being offered for this breakfast. The student tray does have a half a cup of fruit plus 2 other items. But since the meal is not reimbursable at the menu side, it should not be counted or claimed for reimbursement. That's where it's so important for you as a cashier to know what's on the menu, to walk and see what's being put out on the serving line, so you can make sure that the meals are going to be reimbursable. Now we are going to change to the lunch mode now. And to review our lunch meal pattern, we need the milk, the fruit, the vegetable, grain, and protein. And we are going to assume now with all the lunch trays that the menu is reimbursable. You've went and asked the cook to put out the bread if you don't see bread sitting out on the serving line. So with lunch for offer versus serve, we are looking for that golden ticket, the half a cup of fruit or vegetable, and then at least 2 other food components. And this is our first tray that we are going to look at. This is a nice little Thanksgiving menu with sliced turkey. We're going to assume that the menu planner knows there's 2 ounces of meat in this turkey, 2 ounces of grain in the bun. It looks a little small, but we're going to say the meal planner knows she has some product information about this bun and it meets the 2 ounces of grain. We've got 1 cup of vegetable from a half a cup of mashed sweet potatoes. And then that salad looks bigger than a half a cup. But remember, any leaf lettuce only counts as half. So if you've got a cup of lettuce on the plate, it only counts as half a cup of vegetable. We've got a very large apple, should meet that 1 cup standard for our fruit. And then we have a assorted milk according to the menu there. So they've got milk choices. So this is a reimbursable meal. Now what we're going to do is look at trays that may be coming through the cashier station with items eliminated. And this is an easy thing for you to do with your meal before the students start coming. Set up a tray with all of the food items on your menu and just eliminate a few to see if the meal is going to be reimbursable or not. So for ninth grader coming through your meal line and they just wanted the meat and the bun to make a little sandwich and an apple, is this going to be a reimbursable meal? And I hope you all said, yes, it is a half a cup of fruit from the apple and 2 other full components from the 2 ounces of meat and 2 ounces of grain. We're going to reset this tray and take off all of the vegetables and the fruit. Is this going to be a reimbursable meal? And I'm sure you all got this, that no, this tray does not include a half a cup of fruit or vegetable. We hope that you have an apple basket or a tray of craisins sitting at the cashier station so you can offer the student an apple or that package of craisins and make it a reimbursable meal for them right at the cashier station rather than making them go back through the line to pick up a fruit or a vegetable. The last tray is a student that's a lacto-vegan, I guess. They don't like the meat and grain. They just want the vegetables and fruit and the milk. Is this a reimbursable meal? And I'm sure you all got this. Yes, it is. We are uh, finding a half a cup of fruit or vegetable in either one of those vegetables or fruits, and then 2 other full components. Now, if the student didn't want those sweet potatoes, just wanted their salad and apple and a milk, you would have to count the salad as that half a cup of vegetable, and then the fruit is 1 full component along with the milk. So that's where it starts to get a little tricky that they need to have full components. Let's do a different meal now. We've got a cheesy breadstick that every kid just loves. These cheesy breadsticks, and our product formulation statement says that 2 breadsticks will meet 2 ounces of meat alternate and 2 ounces of grain. We've got a cup of vegetable from a half a cup of steamed corn, and then this red sauce is going to be marinara that the kids love to dip their breadsticks in. We've got a half a cup of fruit from the juice, and then we've got an apple basket out there to meet the 1 cup requirement for our 9th through 12th grade, and a choice of milk. So now we're going to eliminate the juice and the steamed corn. Is this a reimbursable meal? And yes, it is. There's a half a cup of fruit or vegetable from the marinara and two other full components in the breadsticks and the milk. Let's eliminate that milk and put juice back on. Is this a reimbursable meal? And yes, it also is. We've got a half a cup of fruit or vegetable from either the juice or the marinara and two full components in those breadsticks that we saw from the product formulation statement. And the last tray, we've seen this from kids that just want to grab and go really quickly. Usually that marinara sauce is in a dipping cup that they can leave the tray behind. But is this a reimbursable meal? There's not a lot there, but yes, it is because we have the half a cup of fruit or vegetable and two other full components in this breadstick. Okay. This next tray I added, it's kind of needs a little more color, I would think, but it's a nice Thanksgiving tray. And I put this one in because of the water. We're going to assume that the roll is 2 ounces, that the turkey is 2 ounces, that there's some basket of fruit sitting somewhere that the student could access. Is this meal reimbursable? And yes, it is. It does have the half a cup of fruit or vegetable from the green beans and mashed potatoes and two other full components. What I wanted to point out on this one with the water is that water must be available to the students to enjoy with their meal, but it cannot be counted as part of the reimbursable meal. It's just an extra on this tray. So make sure when you're looking at the extras on trays, whether it be pudding or we see a lot of potato chips coming out on trays, that you're looking past those extras and counting just the half a cup of fruit or vegetable and two other reimbursable meal components. The final tray that I want to show you today is one with cookies on it. And we get lots of questions, can I have cookies or desserts in the lunchroom? And yes, actually 2 ounces of sweet grains can be counted each week if your menu planner does wants to do that, and calories, fat, the salt, all those parameters that we're looking at, if the cookies fit into those. Now here on this tray, I am saying that this is a cheeseburger that's 2 ounces of meat, but the bun only comes out to 1.75 ounces of grain. And we know that for ninth through 12th grade, it takes 2 ounces to meet their daily requirement for grain. These cookies have a product formulation statement that shows 0.5 ounces of grain per cookie. And so we've got an extra ounce of grain to go along with that 1.75 ounce of bun. And this meets our ninth through 12th grade requirement for grain. They've got apple baskets somewhere. The two items that I've blocked out are veggie sticks and the milk. And then the French fries are half a cup. So would this be a reimbursable meal if the student only took the hamburger, fries, and cookies? And yes, it is because they've got that half a cup of fruit or vegetable in the fries and two full components, but they do need to have the cookies on this tray to have two full components. So I have lots of other slides, but for practice, but I think that it would be best for you to set up your own trays at your school and eliminate some products and put them back on the tray and see what combinations you can make to see if they're reimbursable. Great training. We're going to finish out with our other general program issues that cashiers will see. And the first one is overt identification and confidentiality. You as a cashier will have access to the eligibility status of all of the students in the school. Now, this information is highly sensitive and it is even illegal to access it or give it out without authorization. Some of our older POS systems had some problems with eligibility status being seen on the screen that allowed others that may have been just standing right next to the cashier talking, they could see the eligibility status. So we really encourage the use of a screen protector on our computer monitors that prevents others from seeing that information on the computer. We also have seen older students helping run the point of sale during meal service. Please make sure that they really understand the serious nature of the privacy of this data that they have access to. Best practice, if you can, is to eliminate all eligibility status and pricing for the meal at the point of sale if you're having these students help out with that responsibility. And finally, you as a cashier are going to be approached by teachers, by other staff, even parents will come and ask you to identify the free or reduced kids. And they all have good hearts. They're asking for uh, Christmas donations to needy kids, or they have a book program that they want to donate books to. Just um, be respectful, but decline to give that information as there are steep penalties in disclosing eligibility to someone not authorized to know it. You could just suggest that they contact the food service director or administration for more information on that. The next topic is unpaid meal charges, and they are initiated at the cashier station. So you really need to know what your policies are regarding meal charging, offering alternative meals, and how to say no to a la carte in seconds. Families should receive a written copy of the policy or procedure for handling unpaid meal charges at the beginning of every year. Also remember those households that enroll during the school year, they need the written policy as well. Don't depend that they will access this meal charge policy on the computer. And staff also must receive a copy of the policy based on this federal meal um, language at 7 CFR 210. Your staff need to have a written copy of the policy, and you really should be reviewing it at any back to school training to make sure everyone has the same understanding of that procedure. If your school district does not have a policy or procedure written out, you can contact our office and we've got a template that you could edit to fit your school district's procedures. And finally, POS training is something that you're supposed to do every year with your cashier staff or your point of sale staff. There's more than 20 different computer software programs out there, so we can't help you with that. You would have to call your software company to get the basic training for your cashiers. But really, every one of them needs, or everyone has a pricing button, so you need to know where that's at. You need to know how to charge for a second milk, uh, any extra entrees or a la carte, and the adult meals. We also want to know that you know how to void a transaction on the software. That's actually a question in the administrative review questionnaires. We need to know that you know if a meal is entered in error that you can back it out of the system. But we also don't want to see too many voided transactions when we're doing the review. And finally, you need to know the end of day process. For the most part, those are automatic. You just press a button and it sends all the information to the district software for completing a claim. But you as the cashier should know how that end of process works. Now, we've covered an awful lot of topics, a lot of material today. If you want more information, more in-depth training on any of these, if you want more practice on those offer versus serve trays, there are some great trainings on the Professional Standards website for USDA, and the website is listed here. There's a different annual civil rights training. You don't have to listen to ours over and over year after year. There's more about resolving unpaid meal charges on this website. So you can certainly go to their website and do more training with your staff. And of course, if you have questions, give our office a call. We are good resources and love to help. And this is our non-discrimination statement, all updated for 2022. That does conclude the cashier training for this year. I will stop sharing my screen so I